Welcome to Mountaineer Football Tonight, the weekly coaches show for Kings Mountain High School, brought to you by KMHS Sports and the Kings Mountain Touchdown Club.
Good evening, fans. Welcome to the Coaches Show for Mountaineer Football Tonight. Your host, Craig Short, Drew Fulton behind the controls, and Coach Herron with me here, and we'll get him on in just a moment. We want to welcome you and tell you that we're glad you are with us. We're going to do as we've done the last few weeks. We'll watch a highlight video, and then we'll be back to talk about the last week's game and the game coming up this week. But first, we'll see the highlights of the big win last week over Hunter Huss. So after this sponsor break, we'll see the highlights, and then we'll be back with you very shortly. Hold tight.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by H.B. Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home, Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by H.B. Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home,
Well, we're back, and we showed you the shortest highlight clip ever in the history of Mountaineer Football Coaches Tonight, because we figured out as we were sitting here, we saw the home logo on the field. That was last year's video.
That may be my fault.
It doesn't matter whose fault it was.
Right.
It's no big deal. Our fans know what we did, and it was a good win. So let's get right into the show. Coach,
Yes,
like
sir.
we always do, welcome.
you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Let's talk right about it. Let's go. The first thing I've got written down, 2 big wins last week,
Right.
both JV and varsity.
Right.
JV pitched a shutout Thursday.
Yep.
Varsity pitched a shutout Friday.
That's right.
Man, I'm telling you, you can't beat that at all.
No, that's what we set out to do defensively, and we're proud of JVs. They're doing a great job getting them coached up and learning the system, and their defense is they're running what we run, but they're very similar to us. They've got a really good group of up front guys that can bring it. So we're real proud of the JVs. And then the varsity, that's what we've been preaching since we got started. This goes back to this summer. We told the guys that it's just a tradition that Coach Carroll started back when he was at Northwestern coordinating, and then we carried it over when we got to South Point together, that if defense if they shut them out, then we feed them pizza and wings. So they just finished eating 150 wings and like 20 pizzas. So they're happy. That's just the defense. That's just the defense.
All right, so what is Coach Bolton going to do for the offense?
Man, a great question. I had one of the offense players say, Coach, what do we do for the offense? I said, that's between y'all and Coach Bolton.
Coach Bolton, put it off on him.
That's
what
exactly
good
right.
head coaches do.
That's
Don't answer
exactly
that
right. Now, the other one that we already know about, man, Coach Carroll and I, we've been doing that, and he's done it for years.
That's good.
So we knew that was coming.
All right, so the other question I got asked then is what's your criteria for the special teams? Do they get anything?
Yeah, special teams, really, the defensive special teams should be a part of the defense, and the offensive special teams should be a part of the offense.
There we go.
So
all right.
maybe we need to start adding that.
I like that. Well, I noticed a couple things. It got a little chippy at times the other night, and I don't think I'm not blaming us for anything. I'm just saying I think that it got that way, and it's a very emotional game. But I also thought the officials got a little flag happy at times and prolonged the game a little bit. I'm not here to blame them. I'm just saying.
Right.
I think there were some things that got going there, but I really felt like once we settled down, the guys played really well, and we matched any kind of effort or initiative they had. I will say that I was a little surprised at the game plan in this respect. I thought we might throw a little more than we did. Right. I know we didn't have to because we ran the ball well. Yeah. People that were there might have said the same thing. Were you surprised looking at it that we were more run heavy against them than we were pass, maybe run our pass offense?
No, and there's a couple of reasons for that. And first of all, let me go back to your first statement. We had the touchdown club meeting here last night, and Mr. Brinkley gave me a couple minutes to address them, and want to do the same on the show. And I apologized. I apologized to everybody that was there. I apologized to the Kings Mountain community because that's not the type of team that we want to have. That's not my reputation. Right. I talked with our players about it afterwards. That's just not what we're going to do. Right. We're not going to taunt the other team. We're not going to do things that are uncharacteristic of good elite football teams. So I'll take responsibility for that, and the players that were involved with any of the unsportsmanlike penalties, they learned what grass drills are all about.
I'm sure they did.
We're going to, it's a learning experience, so we've got to use it to get better, because that's not what good teams do. So, but then going to the next part of what you were saying, we knew they only had 35 players, and so we knew that if our offense just wore on them and wore on them and wore on them, eventually we would wear them down to where we could do really whatever we wanted to do. Yeah. And so Coach Bolton had a great plan and the ability to run the ball. Of course, we went in at halftime 14-0, and everybody was a little discouraged, thought that we should be doing better than that, which, man, don't ever look a gift horse in the mouth. I mean, you're up 14 points, you need to be happy. It doesn't matter who it's against. But there wasn't the need to throw the ball because our offensive line was controlling the front, and why take a chance? Put the ball in the guy's belly and let him roll with it. So that's what we did.
I'm all for it, and I think about, to me, as a defensive coach, if your opponent is running the ball on you that much and you can't stop them, that's more demoralizing than anything.
That's a long night. You got a long night ahead.
You do. Well, that goes and I'm getting a little bit ahead, but I'll say the last drive of the game, we were talking about it on air, and Drew was like, when you guys got the final first down, he was like, is this a situation where you take a knee? And I said no. Right. I said, those guys that are out there playing right now, they're blocking, they're running their routes, whatever. They've worked as hard in practice as anybody. Right. We're not going to tell them to let up. Let's put one more in there, and we did.
That's right. And I think once you get to a certain point in your program where you get to where you are absolutely dominating at a very high level, that's when you start using victory formation. But we had a freshman running back. Sure. This was a good opportunity to use one of his quarters to see what he could do, and some other players also. Right. And so, after the game was over, I told their head coach, I said, man, I don't want you to feel like we were trying to score again, run the score up. It was just we wanted to get our young guys, the guys who haven't gotten to play enough, we wanted to get them reps. And he hugged me and gave me and said, Coach, I would have done the same thing.
Sure. You have to. You need to let them play in that atmosphere. And on that line, Coach, about running backs, it was good to see Robert in the backfield again.
Yes.
Those of us that have been with the program, for the last several years, I know we're using Robert exclusively, mainly on defense before we had some injuries, but he's a heck of a running back. He's a heck of an athlete. Right. But it was good to see him in the backfield to be able to help us there with some other guys too. It's good to see Micah back a little bit. Get his feet back underneath him and get his wind. It's good to see him. I thought, and I'll let you talk about this before we talk about the takeaways, me saying that about the game plan does not mean I think the offense played poorly. Right. I think Zolo played a tremendously good game.
He did.
He ran the ball well, especially when he took the tackle on down on the other end, going away from the scoreboard. Right. And trucked a few guys. That was pretty good. Right. But I think overall that we did enough. We were efficient, and our defense stepped up when we needed them to.
Yeah, the defense played lights out. They really did, and there was a few mistakes, and we still, we were talking about it this weekend with Coach Carroll. Like the first game against Shelby, we had like 24 missed tackles, that's way more than what you should have. And then so the other night I think we had 12, and so that's a huge improvement. Sure. And that's where we want to be, even less. If we can get inside of 10, we're really doing a good job coaching, and so we're gonna keep doing it. Coach Carroll has been we've been using about 10 to 15 minutes every day in practice just on tackling, and it shows. So we just got to keep getting better at it. So defense did a great job, and they did some special things too that we'll talk about in a minute.
Sure. Before we move off the game, Coach, let's do like we always do. What were your takeaways, your 3 big takeaways from the game?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would go back and what you've already mentioned, Zolo. I thought he gives you something that you like to have in a quarterback. When you stand back, you have a quarterback that stands back there in the pocket and just throws the ball all the time. As a former defensive coordinator, if I have that situation, I'm feeling pretty good.
Oh, yes.
But when that quarterback can pull the ball down and take off running, now you've got another option that you've got to stop. And so him being able to do that and showing that part of his game is going to help us, down the road. So that would be a big takeaway. The second takeaway is how our defense is playing. And when I say that, again, we'll talk about it in a minute. We did some things the other night that you won't see a whole lot of high school teams do. We do something that's called a simulated zone pressure, and we got an interception off of it and a pick six off of it.
Yes, sir.
And I'll talk about what that means in a minute when we talk about the player of the game. But you can see them starting to really understand what we're doing, and what we're trying to get them to do is high level stuff, and so the better they keep getting at it, the more problems it presents for opponents down the road.
That's a good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
So and they're finally starting to believe in it and become take ownership of it, and that's another big factor. And then I would say my third factor, big takeaway, is that I think that our team learned that penalties in games like that don't seem like they hurt you, but they hurt you.
They do, yeah.
And we talked about it today in leadership, and hopefully I think the big takeaway is that I think they're going to try to control themselves a little bit more to take that away and not have that, because there's a lot of negatives that come along with it, and we don't need negatives.
You don't need to look undisciplined, and I know that's not what you want at all.
And that's to not look undisciplined. We want a team that looks like they know. This is the way I explain it to them. If you've ever watched the movie A Few Good Men,
oh yes,
you remember when Tom Cruise's character tells the guys at his house, man, if anything happens in the courtroom that you don't expect, don't start wiggling in your chair, and don't act like you didn't. Act like you knew it was coming before it came. That's the way we want to play football. We don't flinch. You don't flinch. Just do what you're supposed to do and play as hard as you can. And so those penalties have got to go away, because that's not supposed to be part of it.
Yeah.
Something we can control, so we got to control it.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. And I know that overall you're pleased with how they played. As you were talking, I thought back about the running back piece that we talked about. Not only is it tough on a defense to overcome the fact that they're not stopping the run, but they're not stopping the run from the quarterback and a myriad of running backs.
Right.
It's one thing that if a team is having success with QB1 and even I'd say RB1,
right?
But we're going we got QB1 and then we're going 2 or 3 different running backs, and it doesn't really matter what we're putting in there Friday night. And I've been on that side. I've been a coordinator, and sometimes you're like, I don't know what to do.
I don't know how to do it. Yeah,
and that's a good thing to have. And
Yep.
Coach, one final thing I want to say from a standpoint of the broadcaster and a fan. You talked a lot about the last couple of weeks about culture change and getting guys to step up and that kind of stuff. I don't know what happened. I don't know what was said, but I just want to tell you, like watching from a distance, I was watching as you guys came onto the field Friday night, and I watched some of the guys that I would assume would be some of your leaders, just based on what I know about the team, really like welcoming guys onto the sideline, you know, really like being vocal, stepping up. To me, again, as just an outsider, it looked to me like some of the things that maybe you guys have talked about and are talking about are beginning to work in that part too.
I hope so. I really hope so. You know, there's a lot of little things that have happened, and you know, of course, you get to talk to your son, so he can tell you things. But I guess you're always going to have a couple of guys or a few guys that just they refuse to conform because they believe they already know,
right,
or their parents have already put it in their head that they know, and so it makes it hard. But for the most part, we had our our fifth leadership lesson today, and for the most part, when I look across that room as I'm talking to them, you know, 95% of the kids have got their eyes dead on me, and
right,
and you, as you're talking, some of them are nodding, and you can see that it's starting to kind of click. But you still got that little group that's trying to hold us back, and so we're just going to. We talked about it as a coaching staff this weekend, and we're just going to keep doing what we're going to do, and that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And so I just hope that eventually it takes full hold, and it would be great to see the second half of the season roll because of it.
And I'm not telling you this just because I'm with you and because I think a lot of you and what you've done so far. I'm just telling you, to me, personally, to Craig, it looked different Friday.
Yeah.
When you guys came on the field Friday, and I may be the only one that thinks that, but I'm just telling you because I was kind of watching.
Oh, yeah.
Because I knew what you had talked about, and I just wanted to see from the jump, what did they look like?
Right.
And it's not that we looked bad before, but what the stuff you've been working on, to me, it looked like there was a little bit of a difference that was a good thing. I'm not going to call anybody out, but I saw several people that I would expect that type of behavior from exhibit that behavior or those behaviors. And, you know, that to me made me think, all right, it's clicking.
That's good.
It's clicking.
That's
now,
good to see.
I'm like you. I don't think we're all the way there, and I don't want us to be all the way there.
Yeah, not yet.
Because it'll develop complacency, in my opinion.
Right.
But I do think that it looks to me that we're definitely pulling in the right direction. It's like I told you either on air or off air last week or the week before. You know, the old saying goes, the only one that can make waves in the boat is the one that's not rowing.
That's right.
So when you've got one that's not rowing in the same direction, they're the ones going to cause issues, and eventually they'll get left behind. So,
that's what we call team alignment.
Sure.
And we're going to talk about that. It'll be the next leadership lesson, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully it all clicks at the right time, and if it does, you should see a huge change.
Right.
Now, I'll give you the perfect example is in the Shelby game. We came out to stretch in the second half, and I'm used to when we come out the second half stretch, we get in lines that we all get on the goal line and we stretch together as a team. Well, we came out, we hadn't talked about it, so it's really on me because I hadn't even thought about it. But we had, I don't know, 3/4 of the team was out there in lines and they're getting ready to stretch. Well, there was a quarter of the team over there on the sideline just on the ground kind of doing their own stretch.
Yeah.
And as soon as it was over, I told Coach Trahan, I was like, remind me next week, that's not going to happen.
Right.
We either all going to dynamic stretch or we're going to all static stretch, but we all going to do the same thing. And since that time, that's what we've done. Those are the little things that can make or break you as a team.
Sure, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, that's a good recap, I think, of what we got in. 2 big wins, JV and varsity. It's always a good thing when both your teams win.
Good feeling.
And you don't split. It's a real good feeling. Starting out 1-0 in the conference, we're going to get into more conference stuff because we're going to talk about North Gaston next. So what we'll do is we'll take another sponsor break right quick, and we'll come back and talk about this week's game against North Gaston. Be right back.
Mountaineer football tonight is sponsored by HB Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home,
And we're back. Coach, we got North Gaston this week. Wildcats are coming here. My gosh, it feels like we hadn't been home in like months.
Forever. It's like the first game of the year.
My gosh. Tell me your first impressions when you see the Wildcats on film.
Well, they run an offense that is that's tough to stop. I call it the scrum offense because it looks like you should be playing rugby.
Yeah.
They have their foot-to-foot splits, double wing, double tight ends, double wings, and their misdirection, and it's a mess. So, but it can give you trouble because if you don't make your read the right way and you don't go field, or if you get up high, they're going to knock you backwards. And so, from a defensive standpoint, we've got to play really good, disciplined football, knowing where we fit. You know, when you come up against an offense like that, you have to limit. It really limits you what you do on defense, but you have to do what you're going to do well. And there's several ways that you can defend it. Coach Carroll is teaching all three schemes, three schemes against it. So as long as our players play hard, I think we'll be okay. But the weird thing about it is that they're in that double wing scrum set, and then all of a sudden they'll bust out and be in double twins spread, and so in gun. So you got to prepare for that too. So they are they're a hard team to defend just because of those things. But if our players play low and play hard and play physical, then we should be okay on defense. Offensively now we've got it's a lot similar to last week. We got to be able to take what they give us. You know, they're not going to do a whole lot of changing on defense, but there's spots that we have to be able to play, and there's blocks that we're going to have to make in order to run the ball and move the ball down the field. So we got a little test, but our guys have just got to play hard.
So defensively, are they running a 3-4? Are they running a 4-man front?
Yeah, it's 4-man front. It's 4-man front, and they in the secondary they've got some. And I say that, you know, who knows what they'll come out in this week, but and in the secondary they do some things that's a little bit I don't know. They've got an overhang player that we can't quite figure out. Like, is he playing man? Is he playing in the flats? Is he playing in the curl? We don't. So we got to be able to figure all that out. But we've done a great job. Monday and Tuesday were really good practices working on it, because that's the hardest thing about their offense is simulating it. It's hard to teach your guys, but we've done a good job. Our JVs are helping us with that too, and it's been 2 good days.
Good. So I'll tell you some things off air.
Yeah. Okay.
About North Gaston. They are 3-1,
Yes.
So they're tied right now with everybody at the top. I will tell you that's that they've had it's been a while for them since they've had this kind of success, so I know they're feeling good.
Yeah.
And they should. I mean, they've won 3 of their 4 games. You've talked about that. I also know that they want to beat us, not just because they want to stay where they are in the conference, but I'm also not foolish enough to not remember that we have some of their former players on our team.
Right.
And which, I mean, that doesn't matter to me. They've moved and done what they're supposed to do. But I would say that there's a few of our guys have a little bit of motivation and they're ready. Our guys are motivated anyway, but this will be a good game for us, I think. It'll be a good test because they've had some success and they're wanting to stay there at the top. I guess your focus going in is that, trying to maintain and do the things we do. I'm thinking what you're telling me, if they're running this scrum type offense, 11 in the box, they're going to put everybody right there in a little ball. I'll take our 11 with them.
Right.
I mean, to me, that can cause problems. But when you're bunching everything together, you're putting good on good inside like that. That can help us a little bit.
It could. And what people are used to seeing out of us is all the speed. So I'm sure. And look, they're going to give us their best shot. I promise you that. They're going to play as good a game as they could possibly play. They're looking, of course, for an upset, and this could be a huge win for them and their program. So I promise you, they're going to give us their best shot. A lot of teams, though, it's actually a good plan, because when you come up against somebody that's got a lot of speed, you know you can't go wide on them. So just hey man, we're going to line up and hit you. We're going to run right at you and smash you in the mouth. And so that's why I say our guys are going to have to play physical, and they gotta want to hit them back.
Well, and I'd think too. Of course, I agree with that completely, and I would think too that they're also thinking of clock control. That if they can keep the ball on ground and pound, then it keeps it out of your hands.
Yeah,
it limits the time for you to score.
And I'll tell you that last week, 14-0 at halftime, our players, we had to explain it to them at halftime. Y'all, they're holding the ball. They are not taking snaps fast. They're going to try to shorten the game as much as possible. And I'm sure North Gaston is going to do the same. Our guys have got to realize that we don't have control over that. What we have to understand is when we get the ball, we've got to take it down and score, and protect that thing, because you might be limited the number of times you get it.
I mean, you may be thinking of getting out of here with a 21-0 win,
and it would be
20-7, and that'd be good, because you may not have that many opportunities.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, we're going to see some version of that again when we play the Red Raiders, which is
it's a little bit different.
They're just a little more spread out.
Yeah,
that
triple option's a little bit. It's not that's not the same as this. And it's funny when I listen to people talk and they say, "Yeah, this week we got to play the wing tee." Well, this isn't the wing tee. It's not the Delaware wing tee. This is something totally different. And then you have, I won't say totally different, but it's different. And then you have the wing tee, and then you have the flex bone like South Points, and so it just goes on and on and on. But I've defended that offense before, and they do a great job with it. They really do.
We'll worry about them in a few weeks.
Yeah, we got time.
So tomorrow night, Coach, we'll go to North Gaston with the JV. It feels like it's been forever since we've been home, and for them to be on the road even.
Yes.
So they'll go down to Trudenac and play there in Dallas, and then we'll be home Friday night at 7:30. We'll talk more about the game in just a moment. So we'll go to another sponsor break, and when we come back with Coach, we will do our Gutter Guys Players of the Game. Be right back.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by H.B. Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home,
and we're back. Welcome back. Coach, we're going to get into our players of the game, our Gutter Guys Players of the Week. We will start with our offensive player.
All right. So our offensive player, we're going to go with Tristan Spikes. So, every week so far it's been a skill guy. Mm-hmm. Tristan's one of our offensive linemen, and he had a really good game. I went back and watched him again, and sorry I didn't wear my glasses. Man, I hate even saying that. But he had 2 pancakes in the game, and I had him graded out at 94%, which is pretty high. Yeah. So he was where he needed to be, and he was making plays what we asked him to do. And on top of that, earlier in the week, last week, he had his helmet slide down on his nose, busted his nose bled, his eyes were watering, and I didn't even know if he would play Friday night. He went to the hospital, and they checked him out. He didn't break his nose, but to come back and play a game like that after that type of an injury in practice, he's our offensive player of the week.
That's awesome. So Tristan Spikes is our Gutter Guys Offensive Player of the Week. Now, I know you've been wanting to do this because you've mentioned it a couple times.
Right.
Let's talk about our defensive player.
All right, defensive player of the week is Eli Lipscomb.
And I'm not surprised.
Man, he had a great game. He was all over the place. But again, we talked about the production points. We add them up. He ended up with 122 production points, which is very, very high. He had 8 solo tackles and 3 assists for 11 total tackles. He had 4 tackles for loss. He had 2 sacks, and he had a third down stop. But the big thing is we ran that simulated zone pressure, and he was playing defensive end. He dropped off, and we sent a linebacker. That's what the scheme is, and that the quarterback threw it right to him.
Right to him.
And it's a defensive lineman's dream. So
yes, it is.
He caught it and ran 20 yards, scored a touchdown, picked six, and at that point, that's when we kind of it was kind of over. But he is our defensive player of the week, and he played outstanding.
So I don't know if the biggest celebration was when he had the pick six or when Barry, my man Barry, picked off the game, picked off the ball on the last defensive drive. That was pretty big. The sideline went. Oh, it was wonderful.
That was great.
Because Coach, what's awesome about that is these guys are together all week long,
right,
all of the time. And I think what the fans don't realize sometimes is they really do pull for each other.
They have to.
They have to. And so it was great. Eli scored. It was phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. And I mean, he probably don't feel like he's ever run that fast in his life. but even when you got guys that are going in spot playing for you, or backing up, and they make big plays, that just lifts the sideline.
Yes.
It was nice to watch them all react when we had that interception. That was a big deal.
Yeah, that's great for a team, man. Yeah. Great.
Well, Eli is a great choice for defensive player, I think, based on all those things. And so we'll do our last one, Coach, our Gutter Guys Special Teams Player of the Week.
Okay, and you're going to be proud. I'm going to go with Gabe. Gabe Short. He was 5 for 5 with perfect snaps, which if you go back, he's perfect. He's perfect for the season so far. So. And so our kicking, was not quite what we wanted to do. I will say I'm glad that Matt Rom is taking over the long kickoff duties for us and did a great job. He had a couple touchbacks, but and he's going to get better and better. And Max, he was 5 for 5 kicking. But he missed a long field goal. Probably we probably shouldn't have tried it because the grass was so high. They left it so high it was hard to kick from. But Gabe has done a tremendous job, not just the other night, but all year long. So Gabe Short with perfect snaps is our special teams player of the week.
Boy, his mom will be happy.
That's great.
That's
it.
That's good. Speaking of Rom, it was actually kind of funny. The first kickoff we made, I didn't tell you this. You made me remember. We're lined up and everything. We think everything's normal, and we kicked the ball off, and none of us realized that it was Matthew. I mean, we weren't paying attention, and so the ball goes down, and then I don't remember who looked and saw it was wearing number 20. It might have been when the announcer said it was Teddy. Well, we knew Teddy hadn't dressed, so we're like, no, it's not Teddy. When we got to looking, I mean, we went back and forth a couple times with Matthew. Man, I'm telling you, he did kick well, and that was a good thing to have.
He's got a strong leg, like a booming strong leg, and so and of course he's our goalie on the soccer team, so he's a dual sport player right now, and it's great. We're good with it. But if we can get him with a kicking guy over in the off season, he'll be a special type of player. He's got a strong leg.
That's another good problem to have.
Nice problem to have.
Yeah, definitely is. So, Coach, our last segment, and I talked to Drew today. What we're actually going to do is we're going to open this up. I want our fans. I don't want to hog your knowledge and your answers all the time for my questions, but we're going to open it up. We'll talk more about that later to the fans. But one of the question that I came up with this week to ask you, and I want you to talk just a few seconds about it, is how many hours on average do you prepare for an opponent coming up, and then staff overall? Like what does that look like?
And I don't want to make it a long answer, but back before huddle, and I can remember, working for Coach Carroll as a defense coordinator, or when I was the head coach at South Point. Our weekends usually we started on Saturday morning at about 8 o'clock, and we would go, depending on who we were playing and how hard it was to prepare, we would go from 8 o'clock to about 3 or 4 in the afternoon on Saturday. Then we would come back in on Sunday around 10, and we would go home a little bit after lunch. And it depended if coaches were going to church or whatever they needed to do, we might back it up. But so we were usually in. I've been in a weekend preparing for a team 20 hours before. Big games and teams that you really had to spend time with. Right now, where we are because of huddle, I would say I probably take over the weekend. It probably takes me I do about 8 hours of prep time. That is reviewing our game, doing the stats, looking at our opponent, and then breaking down the special teams that I'm responsible for.
Right.
So our coaches, what I do now, since Huddle has come out, I allow our defensive coordinator to set it up however he wants to. So what they're doing is they're working from home on Huddle on Saturday, and then they meet on Sunday morning, or they'll meet. Sometimes they'll meet on Saturday morning and then revisit on Sunday night. Our offensive staff works Saturday and Sunday, and they come in Sunday evening. So it's kind of hard to answer the question, but in order to get well prepared for a team, you're going to have to spend at least 8 hours.
Yeah, easily.
Easy.
Yeah. I remember, Coach, I remember swapping VHS tapes and having to rewind and stop, and try to.
I had to do that a million times.
And then, I remember when we thought we had really advanced and we got to DVDs.
Got DVDs.
Oh, boy, they thought that was good.
But you had to jump in the car and
yes,
drive
you did.
3
You still
hours
had to go,
get them.
Yes, you had to meet. And then, but like, Huddle has been a game changer.
Yes.
And it does help. But even though we've got that, it's still – you still have to put time in with it.
You got to put a lot of time. Well, I mean, if you want to be good,
yeah,
you have to. Like, if you at some point we might ought to bring Coach Carroll on the show and let him show what a breakdown looks like. I mean, you're talking about writing down distance, hash, yard line, formation, play, strength of it goes on and on and on.
Sure.
Well, you got to type all that stuff into a computer.
Yes.
So it takes time, and then the same thing for Bolton. They go through and they rate every defensive player. Like, this guy's an 8 and this guy's a 7. I mean, they know it. They know everything there is to know about the other team.
Yeah.
So it takes time.
It takes time, but like you said, that's what you got to put in if you want to be.
And let me just say, not everybody's doing that.
Oh, I know. I know. I can tell you for a fact they're not. I
right.
mean, and what I like about what you said too, and it's something you said like from way back when we started the show. You're giving autonomy to your coaches. You trust them. You chose them for a reason because you knew the quality of guys they were and what they would do to the staff and the team overall. But it's like we talked about several weeks ago. You've got an expectation, you've got a standard, and you want them to reach it, and you set it there for them. But one of the things I appreciate about you, Coach, among other things, but you don't ask them to do things that you're not going to do.
You better believe.
And they see that, and that's why people want to work hard for good leaders. Good leaders get in and do the things that everybody's doing.
Everybody has to do.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm not going to ask somebody to do something I wouldn't do myself.
Sure. Did your daddy get his Bluetooth fixed on his truck?
Right now he's at the beach at SOS. Yeah. 87 years old, drove to Myrtle Beach for SOS. I hope I do that. I hope I can do that.
I hope I make it to 87.
This game probably will not allow me to do that.
I'm with you. We've shaved some years off our life for sure. All right, Coach, good luck this Friday.
Yes, sir.
Good luck tomorrow. Good to see you again.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Let's go beat the Wildcats.
We got to get it done.
All right, we'll be back in just a minute to talk about this week in Mountaineer. Thank you.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by HB Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home,
and we're back. Welcome back. We want to thank Coach Herron. He's going out right now. We're talking about his dad being at the beach. Good show tonight. Let's talk. Drew, we got a graphic for this week's sports. We got a few things coming up between now next week. He's looking. Drew's digging. There it is. So today, obviously, women's tennis is at Shelby. They started at 4. Whoa, it went away. It's coming back. Let's see if I can telepathically remember what it says. Yeah, it's coming back. What's up, little tape? We're going to talk. Let me tell you this why it's coming back. Remember what we always say. I'll go ahead and do this first. Like and subscribe to our page and join our YouTube channel. We will be back on air Friday night, but we want you to come to the game. Drew has been putting out some tremendous graphics this week from old Mountaineer days and getting us to support the team. getting you fired up, ready for Friday night. It's been a long time since we've been back home, so it's going to be good to be here for the next 2 weeks, so make sure you're with us. Also want to say that we thank the Touchdown Club, like we talk about every week. As I say, each and every week would not be possible to do what we do were it not for them. And we want you to join the Touchdown Club if you can, and if you have that ability, please jump in and join. Now let's talk about this week at Kings Mountain. Women's tennis today at Shelby at 4. I'm sure they're still playing right now. Cross country traveled up to Lincolnton, and men's soccer is at Ashbrook. Tomorrow, the 21st, volleyball is at home versus Crest at 4:30 and 6. That'll be a good match because Crest is always a formidable opponent. Women's tennis is at home tomorrow versus Forest View, so we got a lot of going on here at the Mountain. And JV football travels to North Gaston tomorrow night for a 7 o'clock kickoff. Friday, of course, as we just talked about, we're back here in the Gamble against North Gaston at 7:30. Please come out, come be loud and cheer on the Mountaineers. Watch them come down Mountaineer Avenue, or Mountaineer Boulevard rather, coming down the hill only for the second time this year. It's going to be great to see them. Saturday, the 23rd, cross country is at a big meet at Freedom at 9 a.m. Monday, the 25th, women's golf will be at home at the Kings Mountain Country Club. Tee time is at 2 p.m. Men's soccer is also home on Monday versus Forest View at 6. Tuesday, the 26th, volleyball is at Stuart Kramer. JV 4:30, varsity 6. Women's tennis also on the 26th is at South Point starting at 4:30. So that's what's happening between now and next week for our Mountaineers. Fans, we also want to tell about tomorrow. Friday. You can do what we've always done. You can use Ticket Spicket. The app is on our social media page. You'll see the link there. You also can purchase tickets at the gate, but hey, I'm telling you, there's going to be a big crowd, so I'd go ahead and suggest you buy your ticket at Ticket Spicket if you don't want to wait in the line at the gate. Remember, if you want about the new parking areas, we've not done this for a few weeks. Drop-offs for the game, if you're just dropping someone off, are in front of the school, not over here by the stadium. The road between the visitor and the home side is closed. You cannot use that road between the visitor and the home side, and you've got to have a parking pass to park on the home side. If you want a parking pass, you can still broadcast. I saw the word broadcast, sorry. You can still purchase one of those from the front office. Speaking of broadcast, we will be on air Friday night live at 6:45. Game time is at 7:30. Gates will open for the public at 6 p.m. So if you can't be with us, be listening to us, and we will have live action back from the field on Friday night. Also want to tell you, too, we're going to share we want to get some questions from you, the fans. I don't mind coming up with questions each week, but we want to get some questions from you. And so we're going to add the ability, or give you the ability, we may put it out on social media. You can even ask us through that. There's a website that you can use, or we'll put out an email either to myself or Drew. We would love to hear from the fans and some things they want to know from Coach Herron and the staff in general about how the Mountaineers are doing or what they're doing to prepare, or anything of the like dealing with Mountaineer football, JV or varsity, that we can ask the coach, because we've got that segment each week. But other than that, I hope that you guys have enjoyed the show. I'm glad you took some time to be with us. Appreciate you being here. Thank Jeff Johnson for the highlight video. Thank Drew for running the things behind the monitors and setting things up for the broadcast on Friday night. Drew told me we've got a special guest with us Friday night in the booth because our man Lamont is on the road going to watch his son play football. We will love and miss him, but we understand why he's going to be gone. So safe travels, Lamont, to you and your family. Look forward to seeing you again next week. We're going to see a man back running our camera up top. His wife's recovering. Still been praying for her, and we just want to thank you for that as well, and for looking after us and being with us on Friday night, Mike, and going from that. Well, we appreciate your support. Hope you have a great rest of your week. We will see you Friday night here at the Gamble playing the North Gaston Wildcats. Have a good night.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by H.B. Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home,